Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We would appreciate it if you would mute your mics and turn your cameras off for optimal presentation quality. And I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Shoshana Williams. I am a consultant for Titles 1 and 5.
And I'm Erin Suddeth. I'm the branch manager for the Title I Part A Support and Improvement branch, and Title V is located within our branch.
If you have any questions during the webinar, please drop them in the Teams chat and we will answer those right at the close, right before we close. Well, here is an overview for our presentation today. Our original survey did indicate that there was interest in documentation with Title V, so that's what we chose to do with this webinar. We will have documentation requirements and ideas and resources for you, and then we will answer our questions in the Teams chat. And I have a slide that does have some helpful resources at the end as well. And as always, each webinar will be posted on the Title V Part B part of our KDE website shortly after the conclusion. When it comes to Title V documentation, it is the responsibility of the Title V coordinator in each district to maintain appropriate documentation in order to administer an effective Title V program. It is also a benefit in the event that your district is monitored. All guidance today is going to be based upon the consolidated monitoring checklist, and which is available on our Title V portion of our website. This is the actual checklist that we use when we go out to districts. So I thought that would be the most helpful way to organize this. And there are links right there for you so that you can see both the website and the checklist itself. First and foremost, the needs assessment, comprehensive district improvement plan, and comprehensive school improvement plan are key components of Title V program documentation. Um, Funds allocated for any title program must align with the needs assessment, CDIP, and CSIP. If you don't identify or if your need that you're wanting to fund is not identified in one of those documents, you should not be allocating funds to that initiative. Always have those documents available when you are planning the Title V programming or programming for any title program for that matter, because they all should be tied to your needs assessment and CDIPs and CSIPs. And on each CDIP and CSIP, there is a funding column, and that is a place where you should be listing Title V as a funding source for any initiatives that are mentioned in that year's GMAP. Um, when it comes to your CDIP, CSIP, and your needs assessment, that supports the D in RAND, reasonable, allocable, necessary, and documented. That supports the D. There should be an intentional connection between those documents and how Title V funds are spent. It is also important to remember that these are living documents that can be edited as often as needed throughout the school year. As I said before, I am using the actual KDE consolidated monitoring checklist to guide the information as I'm presenting. So first we're going to start right from the top. Monitoring checklist item 1. It actually states, and this is actually what is printed on the checklist, which is why I'm not displaying the checklist itself. Monitoring item 1 states the district annually assesses their needs in order to identify how to target Title V Part B Subpart 2 funds using evidence-based strategies, including an evaluation of current activities. Your district should be assessing its needs at least annually, but hopefully more often, and basing the use of Title V funds on those needs. Assessing needs also involves evaluating the interventions currently used by the district to ensure the effectiveness of those. This could happen through PLC discussions, survey results from parents, students, and teachers, and any other way that your district chooses to get feedback to evaluate your interventions. Suggested documentation includes your needs assessment, CDIPs, CSIPs, and we can access those from Cognia. KDE can directly access those. But as a Title V coordinator, you would also need to have access to your surveys with questions and results and meeting agendas with minutes. In order for an agenda to be meaningful and provide good evidence for documentation, it should be dated, provide a list of people in attendance, actual details of what was discussed, and your next steps for moving forward. Checklist item number 2 states expenditures are allowable and meet the intent of Title V Part B. Expenditures are consistent with the types of expenditures in the approved application. Expenditures for Title V are allowable and meet the intent if they are tied to your needs assessment and follow the guidelines of whatever title program you are intending to support with your Title V funds. If you missed the December webinar, we heard from consultants from each title program that explained what is allowable under each. And that webinar and PowerPoint are accessible on the Title V portion of our KDE website, which was linked on the second slide. Um, the last part of the statement is in the approved application. This means that the funded initiative in your GMAP application for the year in question. Don't forget that the initiative should be listed specifically on the program details section and on the budget section of the Title V GMAP application. Suggested documentation includes detailed month-to-date Munis reports with purchase order level details showing all project budgeting and expenditures for the current and previous fiscal years. That right now would be 350J and 350I if you had been monitored during this season. And evidence of activities and programs supported with Title V Part B funds. The Munis reports provided in your evidence must align with GMAP budget, the approved GMAP budget exactly. When your Munis is compared to your GMAP budget, only the approved codes in GMAP should be opened in Munis. The budget in Munis should match the approved budget in GMAP to the penny. GMAP and Munis alignment is actually one of the most frequent findings when a district is monitored. So it is important to make sure that you have those aligned. We do ask for the current year and the previous year's Munis reports because it is a 27-month grant. Monitoring checklist item number 3 states the district has a process in place to review and revise the Title V Part B Subpart 2 budget regularly and ensures timely spending that aligns with the activities in the approved application. Remember, your GMAP application is a living document. It can be revised at any time that your needs change throughout the school year. Timely spending means that you are reviewing your GMAP budget against your Munis to determine if the things the district needed at the time of the application still apply. For example, before COVID, many districts set a budget for PD, but then were unable to travel and use the majority of funds. When an issue like that occurs, it's necessary to troubleshoot what activities can take place and revise your GMAP application based upon that. Then don't forget to align what is in GMAP with what is in Munis. We suggest that the Title V coordinator and finance officer meet at least quarterly to align GMAP and Munis. Ideally, your district's funds should be getting spent during the year of the GMAP application. Timely spending of funds is another frequent finding that we find when we are monitoring districts as well. Documentation includes detailed month-to-date munis reports with purchase order level details showing all project budgeting and expenditures for the current and previous fiscal years. Strong documentation for the monitoring of timely expenditure of funds. So things like agendas and minutes from regular meetings between leadership and school administration, emails or communication providing regular expenditure updates, or a narrative describing the process that your district has for the monitoring of timely expenditure of funds. Munis reports are a great place to start to demonstrate that funds are being spent in a timely manner. And meetings should be occurring on a periodic basis where leadership and school administration discuss expenditure updates. Agendas should contain enough information to document the date, who was in attendance, and what was discussed. Email documentation is also acceptable. You could also provide a narrative that describes your district's process for monitoring the timely spending of funds. So, however it looks in your district, what process you go through. Item 4 states the Title 5 Part B funds are being used to supplement and not supplant the regular program of instruction. Title 5 funds or any title funds must be used to supplement or go beyond and not supplant or replace any other federal, state, or local education funds. This means that if something is required for the education of a student or is a civil right of a student, general funds must be used first. Any title funds are meant to be used once general funds are exhausted, and this does not include supplemental state or local funds. For example, since receiving materials in a student's native language is a civil right, title funds should not be used to pay for printing costs to provide materials to in the student's native language or for parents of English learners at a parent-family engagement event. Universal screeners are another example. If a screener is required, then title funds cannot be used to pay for that. With this, the documentation, there really isn't special documentation to provide, but your other required documentation will usually demonstrate that supplanting is not occurring. Usually, we do ask questions in our interviews to verify this as well. And if you would like a deeper understanding of supplement, not supplant, I've provided 2 links there on that slide for you so you can read a little bit more about it. And one's actually from our Title I admin email. Great resource. Monitoring checklist item number 5 states the district maintains documentation for any employees paid in full or in part with Title V Part B funds to support the allocability, veracity, and accuracy of the work performed. Any employee that you're paying with Title V funds must have their time and effort documented. That amount of time or FTE must align with the documentation on your report and in the approved GMAP application. All title programs require this documentation, so a procedure could be developed for Title I and then edited as needed for the rest of the title programs. There is a detailed time and effort section of the Title I handbook, which I've linked at the bottom of this slide. Documentation can be semi-annual or monthly and should be dated and signed. You can use any type of documentation that you like, but if it is not semi-annual certification or PARS, you should get approval from your KDE consultant before choosing the other forms. Your district should also have written procedures for time and effort documentation for any position funded with title funds. Although a district policy is important to have in place, these procedures differ from a policy in that it's an actual step-by-step set of procedures of how your district requires employees to document their time and effort. The last item, number 6, states the district has standard allowability procedures in place and uses them for purchasing. The purchase or procedures at minimum address whether purchases are reasonable, allocable, necessary, and documented. Written allowability procedures should be something that your district has for any purchase, not just ones made with title funds. The link checklist that I have there states that it is for Title I, but it can be modified to fit any title program. Since this is another area that is common for a district to have findings, I would like to go into a little bit of detail. Um, your district should adopt a policy for allowability and also have procedures to tell the specific steps required when a purchase is made. Any well-written allowability procedure will contain the following things. The procedures should outline approval levels. For example, if a request comes from a school, does the SBDM need to approve it? What type of process does it go through? Who else needs to review and approve purchases? And who will have the final say when determining whether a cost is allowable and approved? The procedures should include relevant state and local rules. For example, some districts develop their own rules regarding Title I, Part A parent and family engagement events for food purchases based upon what is allowable by the federal government. This would be like a district setting a maximum amount per person cost for purchasing light snacks or opt to disallow the use of title funds to purchase food at all. It just depends on how your district wants to make their procedures. In this case, the district's rules on food purchases using Title I funds should be included in the allowability process. The procedure should provide frequently asked questions on frequent types of costs in the district and explain or refer to the district's travel policy. And as I said before, I have provided a link to KDE's allowable cost checklist and procedures for Title I Part A. And this, of course, does apply to Title V as well because Title V supports Titles 1 through 4. And so you can use that and tailor it to Title V. It does have guiding questions and other information that'll allow you to create a document that is tailored for the specific needs of your district. Since I've been discussing the consolidated monitoring checklist, I also wanted to hit on some best practices. This is actually the final section of the checklist. They'll be on the checklist for you to see as well. These are not requirements, but they should be part of any district's Title V program. As anything else, documentation of these would be helpful to keep on hand in the event that your district is monitored. Number 1 states district staff can articulate the process for determining activities to be implemented. Funds are allocated based on needs. When interviewed, can your district staff explain why and how activities are part of the application, the GMAP application, and also that the funds are being allocated based on needs? Number 2 states internal and external stakeholders are involved in developing the Title V Part B budget. This is often neglected. Usually, districts focus more on getting stakeholder feedback for Title I, but this should be occurring for all title program spending. Number 3, school leaders are involved in the implementation of funded activities as appropriate. School level administration should be updated on the use of Title V funds in their schools and monitor the implementation of any initiatives being funded with Title V. Number 4, CDIP and CSIPs are reviewed throughout the year, and the Grant Management Application and Planning System, or GMAP application, is revised as new needs are identified. Don't forget that CDIP, CSIPs, and GMAP applications are all living documents. Each of these should be reviewed as and revised as needs change throughout the school year. And all three of these documents should align as well. Number 5, the finance officer and Title V coordinator meet at least quarterly to ensure alignment of GMAP and MUNIS. Meeting quarterly to evaluate the alignment of GMAP and MUNIS budgets is a best practice, but is really very necessary. It's also a good safeguard to ensure that what is in your approved GMAP application is actually being implemented in the MUNIS budget. Again, GMAP and MUNIS budget alignment is a finding in many districts every monitoring season. So, very good best practice to have. Number 6, the district coordinates RLIS funding or RLIS funds with other funding sources. Since RLIS or Title V can be used to support the other titles, it really can be used in so many ways. It's always good for a district to examine from year to year how they're using the funds from a fresh perspective. Maybe consider, is there another funding source that can accomplish the initiative that I've been funding with Title V, and then free up Title V funds to be used in another area of unmet need? And number 7, funds could be used to support programs and initiatives at non-Title I Part A funded schools. Many districts do choose to not serve all of their schools with their Title I funds. Title V does allow you to keep those schools with opportunities to have equitable education across the district. For example, lots of districts don't serve their high schools with Title I funds, but they do use Title V to fund college readiness coaches, ACT prep, FAFSA nights, and other initiatives to help students prepare for college. So, all great things to think about. Okay, now we've come to the portion of our webinar where we'll answer any questions that you dropped into the Teams chat, and you can also reach out to me via email. My contact information will appear in the last slide. Do we have any questions?
No questions as of right now.
Okay. Um, if you thought of a question, you're welcome to put it in the Teams chat. Okay, well, if you do decide, we will go back to your questions for sure. So the next slide is a helpful resource spotlight. I've tried to highlight this. I know at least with the last time we had our webinar. Title I Admin is a subscription that we provided to all districts. You will get emails twice a week, and if you're not receiving these, contact your Title I coordinator to begin receiving the emails. I've included several helpful links. The first one actually comes from the U.S. Department of Education. It says Guide to Using Rural Education Achievement Program Funds. Excellent resource if you want ideas for that. And then the other links there, the last 4 links actually come from Title I Admin, the email service. And it has things like, when is the cost allowable? Developing district policy and school policy for parent and family engagement. That's another common finding, is the policy itself. And then there's a good article about how you can get parent input for your parent and family engagement policy. Um, and I did kind of we did have several findings about parent family engagement, so I guess that was probably on my mind when I was bringing up resources. And parent family engagement is definitely something you can fund with Title V. Lots of districts do that as well. Okay, there is my contact information, and you should have received the PowerPoint emailed to you as well. So if you need to reach out to me, please reach out to me. I would be glad to help you with any questions you have about Title V. I'm also a Title I coordinator, as I said before, so Title I as well. But that is what we have for today. We really do appreciate you logging in. Thank you for your time. Please feel free to contact me either by phone or email. And don't forget that this webinar and the PowerPoint will be posted in the Title V portion of the KDE website shortly after we end today. These links are for that are actually on the KDE website are accessible by anyone. So if you have anyone else in your district that just wants to know more about Title V or any of the title programs, each one has its own part of the website. Um, I am about to drop a survey in the chat, and it is also attached to the email. Please complete that so that we know how to tailor future webinars in a way that is most helpful for you as a Title V coordinator. Um, and I did email that link. So I'm just to save time, I'm going to just ask you to use the link from the email. And you all have a wonderful day. Reach out to me through email if you have questions. Thank you.